Right, should be, there it is. I always like seeing the file, and sometimes it takes a while before Windows shows it. Anyway, so we've gone through the different processing scripts, and technically, as they are, you can just drag and drop video files onto them and they will work. And that's nice. And you can even drag and drop multiple. I'm using batch parameters and the shift command and all that so that it can go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. But that really only works if you have the video files all in the same folder. Fine for one season of a TV series, but if there's multiple seasons, should likely have them in different folders. If you have one movie and it's extras, extras should be in a different folder. Because this helps. Like, I use Jellyfin, but Plex and such, I believe, also use that same kind of structure, where main title here, extras somewhere else. Season 1 here, Season 2 here, Season 3. So yeah, it's like you want to be able to go beyond that. And also, what if you want to have it go, okay, finish processing this movie, process the next one, then the next one, then the next one. To handle that, I have put together what I call a run script. And in fact, you've already seen a version of this with the run volume adjust script that was back in the volume detect video. Because it made sense. It's like, that's where I get the information, how much to adjust the volume by, to then put into the run volume adjust. So here is the more generic, this is the initial run script that I made that is just generic. This is for working with basically anything. Run series, which is just a specialized version of it, so that I can just more easily build up the list of commands to actually process an entire series. And then here is the free run example. So this is what I actually ran. So we will get to this. We will get to this. I want to start here and start with actually this right up here, which there's a lot going on here because this actually gets used in a number of ways down here. Yes, there's a lot of functions for this. So MKV Toolnix, there's actually going to be a video. It'll be after this one, because typically I use it after the video is processed. But it is a number of tools for editing MKV files. And the three main things that I use it for are its muxer, which actually does get used here in a way. We'll get to that. It's a little weird, but we'll get to it. Its header editor, which I also use here, and its chapter editor, that I don't use here. Those I will cover in a different video. For now, though, just understand that the muxer has a capability FFmpeg does not, which is it will compress the subtitles. And in some cases, it's not small. It can actually be quite substantial. I don't remember what it was for FreeRen here, but because that has two full image-based, full PGS subtitle tracks there. Just the base translation. So if you're playing the English audio, so you're getting the dub, you still need, hey, there's Japanese on the screen. What does that say? You still need that. And also the full English, which is, to go with the Japanese audio. So those can be compressed. FFmpeg doesn't have the ability to do that compression. In a way, it makes sense that that's a fact, because FFmpeg, it can mux things together, but at the same time, hang on a second. Okay, sorry, it sounded like half the city's police force just drove by. So, yeah. Anyway, FFmpeg does have the ability to mux streams together. Wow, the other half is going by now. Okay, they're already passed. Hopefully it's not that urgent, but it's hard to say. I'll take care of that later. But FFmpeg, it does stream processing. So it is kind of a stream comes in, does something, and goes back out. MKV Toolnix expects the files to already be done. So it can look at a thing in totality and then do stuff on it. And yeah, as I said, that compression can be very useful, and it's for, I think, because I recently processed Babylon 5, and that only has one subtitle track in there, and those are only about 45, 50-minute long episodes. It was about 8 meg for each of those that was saved. But for other things, I'm pretty sure I've seen 20 meg. I've seen hundreds, like over 100 meg. Yeah, it can be impactful. So I set something up in here. Oh, well, yeah, so there's that, and that this thing can control it. So this is to say, hey, when you finish processing a video file, run it through MKV merge, which is the command line tool that this MKV Toolnix has a nice GUI that is actually pretty nice, but also does have command line tools, so you can go in and just run things directly, kind of like you can in FFmpeg. Syntax is rather different from FFmpeg, which does get annoying at times, but figured it out. So, and for this specific thing, it's literally just mkv merge.exe, pass it a file, tell it output it over here then, and it by default is applying the compression, so that's nice. So we'll get to that. I just first want to also explain that the other thing that I'm using, it's a different, actually trying to remember which, here it is, MKV prop edit, for property edit. That's to actually change some header information, some of the metadata. And that is specifically so that I can, within the script, rename the audio tracks or the subtitle tracks. Might be wondering, why would you want to do that? Kind of goes back to the television series. So I got the Twilight Zone over there. I love the Twilight Zone, don't get me wrong. But some of those episodes have like 4 or 5 audio tracks, because there's the original stereo, there's a 5.1 mix, there's a remastered 5.1 mix, there's one commentary track, there's a second commentary track, and there's the isolated score. I can't, in just one FFmpeg file, be able to appropriately name all those audio tracks. I can just say, hey, if they're here, do this processing. Okay, if they're here, figure out how many channels they are. That's how many channels I want it to be. And then based on that number of channels, you set the bitrate. That I can do. But I can't do, it's varying every single episode. And also, if there are multiple commentaries on one episode, they're by different people, so I need to be able to put the names in there. So, that's why I built up this command. So what this does is, when you put the file name in there, and this is expected to be run after one of these, essentially. I'll explain proc call, but that's basic, and it's right here as well. It's calling to process the file. Yeah, it then takes it, and when it's like this, just quote, so nothing in there, what it actually does is it is like, okay, FFmpeg, FFprobe, yeah? What's a channel layout for that? It's this. Cool, I'm putting that in the name. That's what it does. And that is also useful because, as I've mentioned previously, I have had to, I have to downmix 7.1 to 5.1 if I'm encoding with AV1. There's a lot of ones in that statement. And it can just be nice to use this, because what this will do is it'll be like, rename the 5.1 to surround 5.1, because otherwise it will just inherit the original surround 7.1 title for that track. If something is skipped, so for example, there could be another audio track, a commentary track, for example, if that isn't named, if that isn't included at all, then it doesn't get changed. And then same kind of process for the this name sub call, except that can have a fallback. Actually, I don't remember if I got that, if it is connected up for doing that. Here it is. Okay, no, it isn't. But I do have this here where, so I did figure out, I think, subtitles were weirder to work with than the audio tracks. But in any case, that is supposed to run through and find what the language is of the subtitle track, and it'll just write that in. But yeah, and here's that channel audio function. So it's, just read through. We've seen stuff like this before if you looked at the volume detect video. If it only returns as 5.1, then make it surround 5.1. If it's if it returns 7.1, make it surround 7.1. Make sure that the first letter is uppercase because it will sometimes return as lowercase. And yeah, it just will spit out. It will just assign whatever the variable name is I set it to be whatever it is. So it can be surround 5.1, surround 7.1, stereo, mono, any of those. All right. Getting back up here. Let's do that. Oh, well, yeah, it's in the. Let's look at proc call, which is also where we see this thing be relevant. Which, by the way, even though I have that set at the top of the script, it could be set with every single file. You could just, because this is an example. The example code. So it's like, that could be, okay, this is, movie 1. Can't have the space there. Then like that, so it would be true, and then set that to false, and then it won't do it for the next one. Okay. So yeah, that because it checks it every single time. Which is technically one of the nice things about batch files, because it does just go down the line. You can always change that stuff. Anyway, so proc call expects 3 different inputs: the folder, the file itself, the video file itself, and then the batch script. If you're wondering why I have these split, folder and the file, it's largely because if I do have something, multiple files in one folder, that way, okay, everything to this side is the same. And I know that there's quote, well, double quote, space, double quote, then we get the file name. Helps out there. It also, it turned out later, I can take advantage of the fact that these variables are actually used. The fold and film variables are actually accessible outside of proc call. So you can see that in here. So what this will do is it will take this folder, well, this path, and it stores it into this fold variable, which doesn't get changed. Because if you look at title call, it looks for file and name. Audio call, file, and well, it actually doesn't even use the name film. But yeah, because of that, this fold and this film will still refer to these two things. So I don't need to keep writing it out. It's really nice. Oh, yeah, and this title call, that I can set it to whatever. So like, ASD 2026 or something like that. And that will be the metadata file name. Well, that'll be the metadata name, metadata title for the file. Because sometimes you will, I don't know how many people would have seen this, but sometimes you will have, like, the file name is one thing, but the title is another. So, and technically that does happen with some of my movies, because the file name I include in square brackets whatever the year was. So it's kind of like in here. It's like in the folder for the series, it's 2023. Because that's when it first came out. I put that into the movie file names as well, but the movie name itself would still be just the actual title. But typically that metadata is set before the run script, so I don't need to worry about it, but it's still, that is another feature there. Yeah, so anyway, this, give the folder, give the file or film, and then whatever the batch script is. So in this case, I have it set to that. And just, because this is actually important, see this here, that ... slash? For those of you unfamiliar, that's a way in a lot of consoles, including Windows Command Prompt, to go up from the current directory. So the reason why that is useful is actually for a series like this. So, we can look here or in here. Yeah. So here, you can see I actually am using a ... slash script. Right? So, and this is just to compact it, so I'm not constantly writing this line out. But this file I can keep in this folder. But as I mentioned earlier, I put the video files in to the season. So season 1, season 2, season 3. And indeed here, you can see DIRS, it says to go down to season 1, and that's what all these are. So this is saying, okay, yes, the video files are here. That's where you need to be, pulling stuff from, but go up a level, that's where the actual processing file is. Okay, so that is very important. And it's also, I use that for extras. So I keep the scripts, all the scripts associated, well, except for one, all the scripts associated with a movie or whatever on the main level, where the main title is. The volume adjust I will use for the extras, that I actually will keep in the extras folder. That in part is, I want to segregate the extras away from main titles. So for example, Freerun actually does have some extras, not very many, but the the volume adjust script, the run volume adjust script for the main series, and if this is one season, but let's say there were 5 seasons, those would, I have one run volume adjust script that handles all that main title content, and that is actually where even this run series script is, but also where this script is, right? The one for the extras, that's in its own folder, because this matters more, and so that I will keep together. But yeah, I mean, I can definitely see somebody arguing that, well, no, if you are going to have the script for controlling how they are processed be next to the others, volume adjust should probably be as well, and just rename it. Yeah, I can see that, but that's not what I do. So, anyway, getting back to this, because I think all I've done is just said folder and film, give the batch script. Oh yeah, that's right, and then you explain how you can go up a level. Before it goes any further, it checks if the file even exists. Sometimes this is very important, because maybe it isn't in there for whatever reason, and that could be not always. I'll delete the original file, because I might be running out of storage space. So it's like, okay, do that. So this would prevent it from processing. It can also be, it catches when I might have misnamed the file. So for example, sometimes for one reason or another, I might be working off the 4K and I put 4K at the end of the file because maybe I have the regular Blu-ray there as well. Sometimes that can just be to compare them, or in case I'm expecting some difficulty with one version or the other. So putting that 4K in there is helpful. Actually, hang on. No, that's not going to quite make sense, is it? Because I have the regular Blu-ray there, would just run that version then. Okay, how about this? Because I also just remembered theatrical cut or extended cut. I might make a mistake. Ultimately, it's in case I make a mistake and don't have the file name in there, it's like, okay, instead of passing to FFmpeg a dummy file, it's like, nope, just skip that. Don't even try. Get to the next thing. Then we have this push D fold, which should not be needed. It truly should not be needed, but I keep it as a fallback. What that does is it changes the working directory of the command prompt. Okay, so that's saying, hey, you're working in this folder. Okay, so over here it's saying, hey, you were working in this folder. Right, so now, and once that is pushed, then I don't need to, I can just name a file, and if it checks in that folder and finds it, and it's good. If it's not in that folder, then it won't find it. Unless it's part of this, unless it's part of the path, but that's not really what we're doing here. So yeah, the push D, push directory, technically shouldn't be needed because I tend to actually use absolute file paths in most places for this. It's just because that's what the %1 is. That's what that batch parameter is. It's the full path. So it's just, technically I don't need to do that, but it's a good fallback in case I made a mistake. Or just, oh, maybe I didn't have an absolute file path somewhere. I made a mistake there. It's like, okay, this takes care of that. It then calls, that is just like calling these functions, it calls the batch file by telling it, okay, this is the folder and this is the path. Technically, I don't need to do that. I can just do that because it already knows to look in the folder. It already knows to do that. But, as I said, I like also having the absolute paths there, so that way this is just a fallback, safe fallback. And now we've got this, which is, it checks, is this set to true? If it is, then it will create this ext change folder. So that's, I have a script already that I've not shown. It's not really relevant. Even now, it still isn't really all that relevant. its purpose is to so I can remux a file from like an MKV to an MP4 file, or something else, and I can also change around how audio files are stored, all that. And because originally I made that for changing the extension, ext change, is appropriate name, and that's why I originally put this mkv merge command in. So by this new feature here, it is so that I don't need to constantly take the movie file and drop it onto the copy to script and then have it do this for me. I don't need to do that anymore. It's built in. And for movies, it makes perfect sense to do that because, like, okay, yeah, you've now taken up an extra 2, 3, maybe 4 gig of space. Sometimes more if it's some sort of really long epic. But it's like, that's what we're talking about here. I have enabled it in the series, but I would not do that for a television series because you're potentially then duplicating like 20 gig or more. 15, yeah, no, 20 gig is reasonable. 15, I was just saying Babylon 5, that was actually about 15 gig a season. So yeah, I wouldn't do that, but certainly can. If storage isn't a problem, then yeah, go ahead and do it. But I mean, yeah, it always depends. And I like having the option there regardless. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to mention, or if I should just go over to the FreeRAND and start talking through more of that stuff. Yeah, I already mentioned the MKV. Oh, yeah, actually I should show a little bit more of the how these work, the name odd call and also the name sub call. It's the same basic process, just pointing instead of to A to S. But the main thing, I already mentioned that it is just passing a command to mkv prop edit. It's like files there, edit, info, dash, all that. Except it has to be a little different because it needs to be able to work through an arbitrary number of streams. Okay? So that's why I have this tag variable. So what's happening here, and also it has that same check if the file exists, creates the tag inclusive. This is necessary because you want to make sure that you're not accidentally using the tag, the metadata information of the previous file. So you want to make sure it gets cleared out each time, because I'm going to be clearing out and then appending onto it. SID, stream ID equals 0, and I'm /A is to tell it, hey, this is an actual number. This isn't a string. This isn't a character. It's a digit. Well, it is a number, because it could be more than one digit. Then call to find out how many audio tracks are in there. That's been handled in other videos as well, so we're going to keep going. Then set name to whatever that second batch parameter is. So first one is to the file, the name, but then the name of the track is going to be there. And then when we hit the shift, batch parameter 2 will become track 2, then track 3, track 4, and so on. If the name is blank, it calls up the channel audio function. I already talked about that. And it will name it it calls up that to get whatever the name is. So it sets that variable that is to be the name. Either the name was blank, so it needs to set it, or I gave it a name, so it'll skip this. We then get this fun function, which tells it, hey, that SID variable, whatever the value is, set it to be its current value plus 1. Okay, if I made this plus 2, then we'll just take that and add 2. It's fun having commands like this. And it's also, like, if you know Notepad++, which is what we're looking at here, the reason why it's called Notepad++ is because this was years ago when computers were still being new. There were a lot of things where it's like we're iterating through a list, like what we're doing right here. Instead of it constantly being set A equal to A plus 1, they decided, let's just make a function that does this for us. And it's just A plus plus, B plus plus, C plus plus. That's why C plus plus is a language. It's an in joke that there was C, and then say, okay, well, we're going to iterate on it. What are we going to call it? C plus plus. And then C sharp. You both have the reference with sharp as in a note where it is above. but not fully. We've not gone to D. We've just bit higher. But also, some people will say that it's plus 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 because the sharp symbol looks like 4 plus signs just arranged. Anyway, so yeah, set to add that, and then it builds up this tag command, which is take the original, which is going to be blank, edit track A. So it says an audio track and then gives this stream ID and then set name to whatever that is. It'll just build that up as it goes. Yeah, this is one of those things that is a little annoying with how that works, that you do need like every single entry to be a thing. You can't just be like edit track and then just have... You cannot put it into a long-term edit mode, this MKV prop, but whatever. This works. With shift, it continues to loop through. Why am I not using a for loop? I think I may have said this in other places. Because for loops are messy in batch files. It just is, and that this works. Plus, well, no, it could still work. Because I do have early exits at times. And it can be a little easier to visually, at least, to build that up with a shift than otherwise. But then, we get here where if, well, and technically this is like an early exit too. If the stream ID equals the count, then it goes to the end. So, I'm trying to remember it. I'm trying to remember if the MKV tools start at 0 or start at 1. No, it starts at 1. Okay. Because, yes, here SID starts at 0, but we're adding 1 before we're getting to this check. So, okay. Yeah. So that means if there's only one track, so count is 1, the first time it goes through here, SID is 1, so it's like, okay, we can get to here. Otherwise, it's to go back up. And then, once we get down here, it's just, hey, take that file, run the tag command, which is going to be a sequence of these. And you can see, I just am keeping here an example of the command to actually do that directly with MKV prop edit. The rest of this is concerned with the subtitles. And then we've got, counting the number of audio tracks, counting the number of subs, where you can see a for loop and how kind of messy that is. Like that whole thing in there. So yeah, it's not unreasonable to be like, you know what? I don't want to be in for loops if I can avoid it, at least in this language. All right. Run series is functionally identical. It's just I have this already put in here. Well, this stuff put in here to just make it more compact. So go-to season 1, I really like my go-tos. When I just have a sequence of movies, it's still every single one. I'll put a label on there because that way, if it is a if I need to interrupt it for whatever reason, like there's a power outage, Windows update, or just for whatever reason, I feel, nope, I'm going to stop it, and then I'm going to start it up again later. I can say, hey, just skip the stuff that I know is already done. Very helpful. So I just start with season 1 here. I already kind of showed, but I'll still walk through it. Set dir for directory equal to series, and that I'll just put in the path to the series. Set the script, and these are basically all the scripts that I would be using. I only would use one, obviously. I use one for an entire series. I could change it. That would be easy enough. I would just need to. Yep, that's not what I meant to do. Do like that and just make it in like SO2, and then that will change it. But I do try to have it all be one. Typically, I think the only television series that I have, and that's important, that I know they actually did change the film process of is Stargate SG-1, because was it with season 8 or was it a little earlier? Because they had done that on film. Later they did go, I'm pretty sure, to digital. I I know that they did go from 4. I'm pretty sure they did go from 4:3 to 6:9 at one point. Maybe I'm just remembering how it was broadcast on a Sci-Fi channel. But no, at one point though, they did change, so you can visually see the audio quality change. Sorry, video quality change. And in theory, yeah, you might want to change the script then. In theory, yeah, you might want to. I didn't, but it's also that was long ago. It might be worth trying to go through all those seasons and redo it all. But it's also I that's 10 seasons, and I think I got it down to like 90 gigs. So it's like I don't really need to. It's already in good shape. I mean, it might be worth investigating at some point, but I got other things to do first. Anyhow. So go to season 1. Now in here, as I said, I grouped the videos together by season. So take the path to the series / season 1. So going to be working in that for this first one, and then set a series variable here, which series -S01, because I do a series name season code, episode code. You can see an example here. And then we've got, the title call, name audio call. So this way I can, like I said, with Twilight Zone, it's like commentary 1, and then commentary 2. Or if you want actors, director, it might be something like that. So that way that can change. But for episode 2, maybe it's like that. Don't really need to set the titles there. And then maybe for this one, we just have producer. So this way it's just going through and it'll just, change the metadata name for that audio track. Okay. And yeah, in theory, I could set the title in here as well to be something else. I don't remember if I mentioned it, so I'll mention it now, just in case I did forget. The title call function right down here, it just pulls the file name if nothing is specified. So like how for the audio call, for the name odd call, that pulls whatever the channel layout was. It pulls the file name. So for Freewin, we'll just look at this now. That would be naming them Freewin -S01E010203 and so on. But felt no reason to do that, so it's just there. And it has no commentary tracks. In fact, none of its audio tracks differ in metadata from one to the next. So I could just have it written into the script itself that, hey, first track is English, second track is Japanese. Well, English dub, and then second track is Japanese. I don't need to change that here. But yeah, so you can see that it will just go through, and it calls up the name there. So it's like I don't need to constantly put that in. So now, if nothing else, the line is not as wide. And then I just need to set these. And it's so nice to do it this way. Because, I mean, there's obviously a pattern here because it's a decimal numbering system. Makes it very easy. And then, like, if there is a season 2 and I decide to get it. Actually, I did see there is season 2, but it's not on Blu-ray to my knowledge. All I have to do is this. And if it's 28 episodes, cool. If it's 10 episodes, which I think I looked and it's actually 10 episodes, at least thus far, that's all I'd need. Technically, if I left it like this, that would be fine. Because, remember, proc call checks if the file exists. File doesn't exist, skip, move on. And it doesn't need to get to FFmpeg, nothing. It's just already skip, move on. If I need more, so let's say that they went to 29, and I actually don't want to do that. Let's say they went to 35, and do something like that. There and there. It's very easy to do this, and it's why I tried to redesign some of this in this way, where, it's just have these variables here, so that way it's a lot simpler, it's a lot cleaner to look at. Just trying to think if there's anything else to mention. Oh, how I did mention before about, you could change the script every season. Technically, that's exactly what I'm doing. There's no functional difference between the folder of extras and the folder of main titles. Except that, here I can't use something like the Series S because each file has a different name. And you can see how it's, kind of juggling, bouncing back and forth. Now, true, that shouldn't happen with these because it's all the same kind of code information. But still, I don't need to worry about, I accidentally misspelled Freewind at episode 9. Okay, it's always going to be the same with that. But, yeah. So here, this is... You can change it quite easily there. So, I don't think there's really anything else. I guess also mention could do this there, so that way these would get changed, but the others wouldn't. Oh yeah, I guess I can mention here. Yes, there is a function called dir. So technically, I shouldn't really be using it as a variable name, but it works because you call this as just dir and not %dir %. So, but this is, as says there, writes a list of files in a directory. So that I would do, like in this case, and technically I don't really need to do it anymore. But have it just write out all the file names and it's like, okay, copy, paste, and edit things around it. Don't need to do that here anymore. Here it would make some sense, but what I actually do here is I pull it from the volume detect file or the volume adjust run script. Because it already has that list of files there, so I can pull it and put it in here much more easily. I do believe that is all. I don't have anything more to talk about with run scripts. Yay! We're done with scripts for now, I think. I unless I'm gonna go back and redo another one. I don't think I have anything more to add about the scripts. And maybe I will. Oh, well, that's true. I do want to do it. I don't know when, but I do want to do a short, focused thing, at least on the video processing scripts. I don't think it's relevant to do it here. All right. See you next time.